Hey guys, I hope you're doing fantastic. My name is Colin and this is Colin Talks Crypto. This video is part 2 of the ultimate cash out plan. If you haven't already watched part 1, I urge you to do so, because in this video, and due to the overwhelming positive response, I'm going to be answering the 6 top questions generated by you guys from the part 1 of the ultimate cash out plan. Thank you for joining me. It does seem like a lot of people want to know how to cash out and how to take profits. There's a lot of you guys who are perhaps newer this time around. Maybe you got in after the last bull run peak. Maybe you're a seasoned veteran just looking for some new ideas on how to preserve your wealth instead of letting it get decimated during the catastrophic bear market corrections that often follow a blow off top for Bitcoin and especially for the altcoins. As I said in the last video, last bull run in 2017 and the subsequent bear market, I experienced a drop to 1/10 of the value that I had seen at the peak of that particular bull run. It's not to say that you're going to perfectly cash out, you're not going to perfectly ever hit the top or the bottom, but I'd say that coming within even 20% of the top and the bottom is remarkable. And that is what I am attempting to do this time around. Just as a little background, I've been involved in the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin space all the way since back in 2013 when I bought my first Bitcoin. I watched the price climb all the way up to $255. That was the sub peak of 2013. And then I watched it drop back down below 100. I watched it then climb all the way to $1,150 in early December or late November of 2013. I didn't take any profits. I was very new back then. I was literally just accumulating Bitcoin. I think all I held at the time was Bitcoin. I might have held some Litecoin that I later sold for Ethereum. And that actually was a very good move. Fast forward a couple of years, I accumulated an enormous amount of Ethereum. And then I experienced the 2017 bull run that many of you probably are aware of, where Bitcoin reached $20,000 and Ethereum hit, I think it was $1,400. Needless to say, my portfolio grew quite a bit in value, and I was extremely enthusiastic, one might even say exuberant. And I, in typical exuberant newbie fashion, did not take any profits. Bull run number 2. So here comes along bull run number 3. And if you've been following my channel, I've been making it my personal mission to not miss another opportunity to take profits. This time around, my personal third bull run, 4 if you want to count the 2013 sub peak as its own bull run, I have decided to do things differently, and thus has born my channel, my cash out plans, and my Bitcoin bull run prediction videos. I do this all for myself. I'm keeping a record. I welcome you to follow along if you want. None of this is financial advice. So that's a little bit of background about myself and my journey through this cryptocurrency space. As a quick recap on the cash out plan, again, please do watch that part 1 video. It's got a lot of good nuggets of information in there. But the essential plan, I'll try to do this in like 1 minute, of cashing out is to have all your bank accounts, all your gold, whatever assets you're cashing out into, set up ahead of time. That includes exchanges. That's the preparatory step. Next, when CBBI hits whatever you determine to be your predetermined values for taking profits, I personally am going to start around 90 on the Colin Talks Crypto Bitcoin Bull Run Index. I'm going to start taking about 5 or 10% on every point move up from 90 to 100. I'm not going to sell any more than 70% of my total cryptocurrency holdings because no one knows where this is truly going, and you don't want to be caught out of the game entirely. The purpose of the cash out plan is to accumulate more cryptocurrency, and I cannot emphasize that enough. The purpose of this is not to hold gold, it's not to hold cash, it's not to hold stable coins. We are merely using those stores of value to capture the purchasing power of our cryptocurrency when it has gone irrationally high and preserve that wealth as the bear market corrects on its way down over the next 1 to 2 years following that blow off top. And as I shared in that part 1 video, the various places I'm going to allocate my cashed out profits until the next bear market include cash, which is bank accounts and exchanges, and stable tokens, including UST, DAI stable token, and perhaps any other good decentralized stable tokens that I encounter. Another portion of my cashed out asset allocation is going to go toward gold, physical gold, not paper stock notes. It's going to go to physical gold, which I will have stored in Brink's vaults. That's for quick liquidity access. And the other part of my physical gold allocation will be with PAXG token. As a side note, you can also use Vaultoro. Personally, when I looked into it about a year or two ago, it had fairly low liquidity, and that's why I sort of ruled it out. It didn't have very much volume. Maybe it has grown since then. So Vaultoro also would be an option. Please use the link in my description below for goldsilver.com. That's a service I personally can vouch for and I personally have used to good success. So we have gold, stable tokens, and fiat. And then there's the subcategories under those. And again, go look at that first video, part 1, if you want much more detail on that breakdown. So now that we've covered kind of the recap and my history, now let's get into some of these top questions. And I've listed them down here on this sheet of paper so that I just don't forget to mention anything. I'm just going to read these to you guys, and we'll add to it if we need to. So first point here, someone said, what if the CBBI goes to 90? Which is the first point of taking profit. And I take profit. And then it goes to 91, I take profit. It goes to 92, I take more profit. And then it drops back to 88. What will I do? Will I sell on the way down because maybe I missed the peak? And my answer is no. I'm not going to be selling when it goes below 90. Part of a cash out plan is to have a plan. And it's having the personal strength to follow through with that plan. And I wrote here, corrections happen, and this will likely happen at the top. One must have the mental fortitude to stick with a plan. That's why having a good plan is the important part. Executing it is the easier part if you've already got a good plan in place. But nothing could be worse than having no plan in place during this bull run peak and likely operating on emotions when trying to sell and not making the best moves because you don't have a good strategy. So a key part of cashing out is just having a plan. And I would argue that having any plan is better than having no plan at all, because the last thing you want to be doing is acting on whims and FOMO. And you know that the media and the news is going to be talking so much about Bitcoin when it breaks $100,000. You do not want to be jumping on the bandwagon because mainstream media is always late to the game. And so the reason I won't be taking profits if it does go to 92 on the CBBI and then back to 88 is because I feel confident in my plan of waiting until it goes back up to 93, where I will then resume cashing out into those 3 allocations, gold, stable tokens, and fiat. And the reason I say this fairly confidently is because based on past historical Bitcoin bull run data, there are tremendous corrections on the way up to the peak. If you think that the corrections we've seen so far have been big, just wait till you see what comes up here. I'm not saying we're going to have 50% corrections all the time, but we're definitely going to have 20 and 30% corrections on the way up. And to expect anything else would be actually foolish, just based on historical data. There are many 20 and 30% corrections on the way up. I think over half a dozen historically. And so we've seen a couple so far. Expect at least 3 to 6 more, I would say. So that's why if it hits 92, 93, then drops to 85, I'm not going to panic. I'm just going to wait. I'm not going to say it's not going to stress me out. Yeah, it might be a little unnerving for sure. Like, is this going to go back up over 90 or are we at the end here? But that's me committing to my plan and committing to my strategy and not being weak-handed and selling as the market is fearful. I'm going to wait, and I hope and I think that the market will go back up over 90 and I will be able to resume cashing out as CBBI resumes its score upward, 94, 95, 96, etc. So do expect these drops. They will occur. Okay, and on to the next point here. So more on the timing of altcoins for taking profits. I think that's probably the number one question you guys have is how do we take profits with the CBBI in relation to our altcoins? And I wrote here, since, as we discussed in the last video, it's approximately 3 weeks on average for altcoins to peak after Bitcoin, and it takes about 12 days to go from 90 to 100 on the CBBI historically, I will wait until CBBI reaches 100 or the nearest peak to 100 and start my 2 to 4 week timer from that point for taking profits with altcoins. Selling larger market cap altcoins sooner and lower market cap alts later. And again, see part 1 where I explained why that's the case, but basically my observation is that the larger the market cap coin, the closer it peaks, typically speaking, to Bitcoin, and the smaller market cap coins will probably peak later. This is a general rule of thumb that I'm going to be following. It by no means is a hard rule, but we have to just go by our best statistical guess, and that's what I'm going to go by. So for example, if Bitcoin peaks on January 1st, 2022, and CBBI shows a score of 100 or 99, something like that, that's when I'm going to start my altcoin counter in my head. And I will probably take the first profits with Ethereum because it's the largest next up in market cap to Bitcoin. So about 2 to 3 weeks later, I will be taking profits with my Ethereum. And on down the market cap ranks. So if we have Bitcoin Cash or Solana or Terra Luna, I will probably wait a little bit longer, maybe 3 weeks to start taking profits with those, and so on. And some of you guys hold the most obscure, tiny market cap coins, and they'll probably go astronomical. I don't know where they'll peak. My best guess is these super tiny micro market cap coins will probably peak 4 weeks, maybe more, maybe up to 2 months after the Bitcoin bull run peak. I don't personally hold many micro market cap coins. I do hold maybe 2% of my portfolio. And so for me, I'm not too stressed about that, but be on your toes if you do hold a predominance. And that's personally why I'd recommend not holding so much highly volatile small market cap coins, because you just don't know when it's going to peak. It's so far removed from Bitcoin that there's not a lot of predictability when it comes time to profit taking. That being said, you might see astronomical multipliers. You might see 100x gains or more. And I wish you the best. I hope that you and I both take maximum profits on these micro cap altcoins. So some notes on precious metals. Someone asked me, what's the reason for gold versus silver? Like, why buy gold? I didn't really talk about buying silver. And the main reason for that is because gold has a less expensive bullion premium than silver. And the last time I checked a few days ago, just to give you an example, the bullion premium for gold was about 4%, and the bullion premium for silver was about 9%. That's a pretty big cut. Both of them are pretty big cuts, but 9% I consider not really acceptable, especially when the purpose of us is to just hedge our loss for 1 to 2 years. It's not to hold silver for the rest of our lives. That's not the play here. If that was our play, then sure, go ahead and buy some silver. And again, do whatever you wish. This is just my personal advice to myself. And if you want to, go ahead and buy a mixture of gold and silver. But I don't want to pay a lot of bullion premium. I'm already going to be paying fees when I store my gold in the Brinks vaults, because there's a monthly storage fee for storing it in a commingled vault in a Brinks vault. But that allows me quick access should I want to take profits at some point in the future. And basically goldsilver.com will liquidate it with it being in my Brinks vault and send that cash straight to my bank account. So again, please use the link in the description below if you plan on buying some precious metals yourself. Okay, on to the next point here. Another reason I'm using the UST, the Terra Luna stable token, pegged to the dollar, is because it offers high interest rates, much higher than a traditional bank account. I personally plan on earning passive income during the bear market with as much of my cashed out funds as possible. This is where the stable tokens come into play. And if you recall, this is why I have the pie sliced into 3 portions: gold, stable tokens, and fiat. They're all to secure my assets and to diversify in different ways. And some people think, well, a stable token is pegged to the dollar, so what's the difference from just holding the dollar? Well, with the dollar, I can't stake it and earn a passive income, and sometimes as high as 20%. And I think that UST, the Terra Luna stable token pegged to the dollar, is the #1 interest-bearing stable token. So I plan on having a predominance of my stable token using UST. And then you might ask, well, why have any fiat and any bank accounts? And it's just, again, against maybe there's a crazy SEC regulation that crashes or blocks stable tokens from exchanges. But if I have cash in my bank accounts, then that will be okay. So you see, it's just a diversification and a security measure for myself against any and all unforeseen events, because I am trying to wait 1 to 2 years, and a lot can happen in 1 to 2 years. So I do plan on generating as much passive income as possible during that bear market ride down. I'm not trying to speculate too much, but absolutely, I will take as much passive income as I can possibly get. And for me, I see UST as being one of the main contenders for that. You can probably generate some passive income off the DAI stable token using decentralized finance as well. Next up, do not forget about taxes. I sometimes forget to mention this because about 2 to 3 years ago, I moved to Puerto Rico to avail myself of the 0% on capital gains law in Puerto Rico, available to US citizens only. That act is now called Act 60. Feel free to look it up. And it's a way to get 0% on your capital gains. But it starts when you move to Puerto Rico. It doesn't start prior to moving there. Any capital gains you've accrued thus far, you owe, even if you move to Puerto Rico. I have a big, juicy YouTube playlist in my YouTube channel, so please watch all those videos if that does interest you. But if you live in the United States or another country that does have capital gains, then this is an important thing to factor in based on your income bracket. It can be as high as 40% of your total earnings, or as little as 20%, depending on whether it's short-term or long-term capital gains, and depending on your level of income and what country you live in. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory there. Pay attention to your taxes. If you start with $100,000 and you see $1 million during the peak of this Bitcoin bull run, you might think you made $900,000, but you might not have if you have taxes. Make sure you save those taxes if you do owe them. On $800,000, you might owe as much as $200,000 to $400,000 of that in taxes. So make sure you set that aside and maybe take that as a lesson of where do you want to be located? Do you want to be located in a country or region that taxes you so heavily? That was the lesson I learned about 4 years ago and a big reason of what prompted me to move to Puerto Rico. Last question, why don't I cash out into stocks as part of my cash out plan? And I wrote here, personally, I'm not going to be doing this, but you can if you want to. You can cash out into any assets, for that matter, that you want to. You do not have to follow my plan strictly or rigidly. You can add a bunch of Apple stock or Tesla into my cash out plan if you want. You can do as you wish. Originally, I was pretty hard-lined about not investing in the stock market. I generally don't like the stock market. I don't believe in it as a long-term preservation of wealth. I think that it is, well, I know that it is highly manipulated. It is funded primarily with inflation. That's a good way of summarizing it. Basically, the stock market is an inflation vehicle. It's the byproduct of inflation. And the proof is these giant stimulus packages and bailout money, and where does it go? It goes to these massive corporations. So it's no wonder to me that the stock market basically goes up and never goes down. Now, you might consider that that's actually a good place to put some cash if you want it to go up and keep up with inflation. I think it's a ticking time bomb. And be my guest. It's just not something that I personally feel comfortable with, and on just a understanding of economics basis. I do encourage you to watch the YouTube series by Michael Maloney, The Hidden Secrets of Money. It really brings a lot of understanding to the manipulations at play here, not just in terms of the stock market, but actually more so in the general economy and the printing of money, and basically the theft that all of us as citizens experience behind our backs, the covert, sneaky, hidden theft. If you think that actual tax is theft, wait till you realize the theft that's occurring even when you aren't being taxed. So I don't want to support that kind of a system. I want to move into the new crypto future. And yes, I'm using stable tokens pegged to the dollar. Yes, I'm using some fiat. But my goal is to come out with more crypto in the end because I want to build a better future. And I think that transparent, immutable blockchain technology is that path to a better future for mankind. It will stop things like enslavement. It will stop everything from war to political abuse of entire populations and major widespread human atrocities that have plagued mankind ever since the ability to manipulate the dollar existed and reared its ugly head. Countries and governments and humans, unfortunately, are not trustworthy when it comes to the issuance of money. And it will get abused and has been historically time and time again. And so with that being said, join me this bull run in cashing out, taking profits, and accumulating even more crypto to support that movement toward a greater freedom for humankind. Have a great day, guys.